Bonus edition of the Mike Arana show today. Me and Mack sitting here, and we're going to talk some golf. The Ryder Cup, as we've talked about on the show plenty of times, coming to Bethpage in Farmingdale, New York, which is going to be an absolute scene, and I can't wait to see it. And that's coming up here very, very shortly. But what is also coming up ahead of that is the locking of the Ryder Cup team, which will occur on August 17th after the BMW Championship. Mack, very hard to believe that we're already at this point in the season about done. It feels like we just started Mike versus Mack, which starts a month or so into the PGA Tour's hefty schedule. And here we are. It's almost time for the Ryder Cup. We're about 2 months away. It's crazy to think about that.
The golf season kind of just flies by. It seems that, since they've gone to this, like the fall schedule and like this condensed schedule where, it seems like we have like these, all these signature tournaments and then like these major tournaments coming up like every month. It just flies by. Just like, every couple of weeks through the summer, we seem like we have, a major tournament, and it just flies by. And you're right. Here we are. It's August. I don't know that I love that it ends in August. I mean, I still feel like there's part of like it should go longer. It just feels like it should go longer. August seems like an end, but here we are.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a catch-22 for me. And I know you and I have talked about this a lot, but I think it's imperative for them to end their season before the NFL season starts. Because if you remember a few years back before they tweaked the schedule, and I don't remember the exact year, but they were having such a great season, and the Tour Championship at East Lake happened to be on opening weekend of the NFL schedule. And I think it was imperative for them to kind of tweak that and move it for that sense. How do you get the guys to start playing in some of the events earlier, I think, is a question. And obviously something that is bandied around a lot. The fact that, here we are on July 23rd and 24th, and we're sitting here and we have no more majors and we're at the FedEx Cup. So yeah, there is something there that seems like it needs to be adjusted. But I think anytime they go into the NFL season with the Tour Championship, they're not getting as many eyeballs. Interested to see with the new leadership now if that does change, because our new commissioner came over from the NFL. So I think there's a lot of things to kind of discuss there. But yeah, I agree with you. It seems like it flies by fast, and it seems like it's like it could be stretched more into January, where you get some of the bigger events, as opposed to like not really getting to the big events till late January, early February.
I mean, because if we don't have the Ryder Cup coming up, like you come August, I mean, let's be honest, those tournaments that are important, they're important to the tour, because those guys now 70 and below need to start qualifying and getting the points in order to get to the Tour Championship. But let's be honest, general public wise, those tournaments aren't like hefty as far as like stuff that we watch on TV. It's not stuff that we really follow. It's kind of like in the background, like you said, because of football. So again, it's a real catch-22 what they would do with those. Again, important to the tour, because the tour is more about than just the 70 guys that make the PGA Championship. It's about those other 100 guys that are qualifying for their card and trying to get points in the fall. But unfortunately, mainstream wise, it probably isn't as popular.
Yeah, September 26th to the 28th. That's when the Ryder Cup will take place at the Bethpage Black Course, again in Farmingdale. 45th time we've seen the Ryder Cup, with Team Europe defending their title after they won it last in Rome. For those of you not familiar with the Ryder Cup, foursomes, four balls, and singles matches will take place from the 26th to the 28th. And the qualifying process, the top 6 players in the Ryder Cup after the BMW Championship, they automatically qualify. Our captain, Captain America, Keegan Bradley, will then make 6 captain's picks to complete the 12-player team. And when you look at it as we sit here headed into the 3M Open, obviously, Scotty Scheffler is automatically qualified. Xander Schauffele, second in points, followed by J.J. Spaun, Russell Henley, Bryson DeChambeau, and Harris English. So as we sit right now, as of this day, those are our 6 guys that look in line to automatically qualify. The next closest guy is Justin Thomas, who is very close to Harris English in the 6th spot. And then there's a little bit of a gap between Thomas at 7 and Colin Morikawa. So when we look at these top 6 guys, Mac, it's kind of an interesting mix. Scheffler and Schauffele, these are big game players. They always show up in the biggest moments. Obviously, we could sit here and talk about those two forever. J.J. Spaun very much has earned his way up there with the U.S. Open victory, and it looks like he probably will automatically qualify. And then Russell Henley and Harris English, 4 and 6. I think both guys have had fantastic seasons. Both guys have obviously earned their way to those spots. And I'm saying 4 and 6 because, as we heard on Sunday after the Open Championship, Keegan Bradley made no bones about it. Bryson DeChambeau will be one of the big key players on this team. I think both of us love that. Henley and English, I'm kind of indifferent on both of them. They've both had good seasons. I think I'm a little more confident in Harris English than I am at Russell Henley, and that's not a dig on Henley, but we want the best of the best to go here. It's the Ryder Cup on our soil, and we want to make sure that we walk away with this thing, especially after what happened to Bro.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things, in the past, I think we had a lot of flash. Let's just be honest. The USA was about flash. You talk about, Jordan Spieth, you talk about Ricky Fowler, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods. We had the flash. And it was that, and the European team, it's just kind of like, they might not have had like all the flash, but they had the camaraderie. That's what it was about. It was about, it doesn't really matter what they have. We're one. We're one. We're a better team than the United States. The United States is more flash, more individuals, but we're going to win because we have that better team. And really, it's kind of funny in an individual sport, and we don't see a lot, obviously, of team stuff in golf. It's interesting to me how important the team actually is. And we've seen it the last couple of times where just because you have, if you want to use a term, maybe better players, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, because there's something about the coming together as a team, and they don't have a lot of time to do it. Once the tour championship is over, it's only in a couple of weeks. They'll start playing a little bit at Bethpage, and they'll do a couple of team events, but before you know it, it's right there. So there's not a lot of time to build that team unity. That's always been one of the reasons why the European team is so good. They just seem to have it, and the United States doesn't. So that's what I think. The key person on this team is Bryson DeChambeau, because I think he can bring kind of that spirit unity to the U.S. team.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing is, and this has been a topic of conversation several times because he's playing probably the best golf he's ever played right now, Keegan Bradley. Does he make himself a playing captain? And I know there's going to be people that if Bradley doesn't make himself a playing captain, and whoever basically takes the last spot would be where Keegan would put himself if he doesn't automatically qualify, which he's still kind of is in a position to do so. If he doesn't play, everybody's going to criticize him for not putting himself in there, especially if the last guy he puts in goes and stinks up the joint. And this is a completely different environment. We joked about it on the show for people that haven't really watched the Ryder Cup in the past. Imagine taking the Phoenix Open and dumping it out into an international competition. I mean, that's kind of what it is. And the guys love that. They get to the first tee, and if it's not loud enough, they egg it on and try and get it louder. Well, you don't need to do anything more than put a bunch of rowdy New Yorkers out on a golf course in a USA versus the world competition to get the party going. I think we're going to see some absolute friggin' scenes at Bethpage. And I, there's guys that are farther down the list, and these are all guys that kind of fall into the captain's pick territory when we go 7 down. Justin Thomas, and these are in order, 7 down. Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Ben Griffin, Keegan Bradley, Maverick McNeely, Brian Harmon, Andrew Novak, Patrick Cantlay, and Sam Burns. That's where I'm going to stop. That takes us from 7 to 15. And I think there's a lot of guys on there that a couple of them would be first timers, but I think they have the game and the temperament to play in a pressure environment like this. Specifically Ben Griffin. He's had a hell of a season. Very consistent. Last couple of weeks haven't been great for him. Chris Gotterup's another one of those guys who's been great as of late, but he's a lot farther down on the qualifying list. Tony Finau, you can keep going on this thing and find some names of guys that can show up, under the bright lights, if you will. I mean, Jake Knapp is a guy I'd love to see in this. It's just, when you're talking about a guy at 40th on the qualifying list, you're not going to jump a lot of guys to do that. I think eventually Jake Knapp will be one of those guys that we talk about consistently on the Ryder Cup. But I don't know. I totally want to see Justin Thomas there. I think he's had another great year. He's only had the 1 win. So I think people look at JT and he's such a polarizing player when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I think people are going, well, he's only won 1 time. Well, if you're looking for guys that have won tournaments this year, and that's your qualification, A, you don't understand how this works. And B, I think there's a lot of people that would look at JJ Spawn and go, well, he got lucky with a putt to win the US Open. Why should he be there? I mean, it's always interesting. And as in like any all-star team, which is basically what this is, you're going to have guys that get snubbed. And, it's interesting. Who's a guy below the number right now, below the 6, that you really want to see on the team? Sans Keegan Bradley, because I think we know the obvious there.
Well, you always look for people with experience. And I mean, you don't want to go, too far down the list. But, someone that I think of is like Billy Horschel. I mean, he's like in the 20s. I think he's 28. I mean, that's pretty far down the list to go. But we'll take a guy like at 14. How about Patrick Cantlay? Again,
oh God, no. Don't do that to me.
But see, that's what I'm saying. See, it's not the sizzle, but I mean, he hasn't had a great year. Let's just be honest. But I mean, that's a guy that, I mean, you could be talking about. Sam Burns is in the 15 spot. He's another one. 18, Daniel Berger. I mean, these are guys that, I mean, kind of joking, they feel like they're kind of the same golfer to me. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of getting the same thing. I'm a big Tony Finau guy. I didn't realize he was this down on the list. He's 21. I like Tony Finau. I think we talked about him a little bit last week. He has good makeup come major tournaments. He hasn't broken through with the big win, but he's usually there. He's handled the pressure before. I think Tony Finau would be a great pick.
Let's go back. I mean, because you mentioned another one of my favorite guys, Go Gators, Billy Horschel, and it sucks that he's not going to be a guy that can be picked because it says late summer is the prognosis for him to be back from his hip injury, but obviously you're not going to come back and jump into the Ryder Cup, right away. But yeah, he's one of those guys that, and I think we saw it in the TGL a little bit. And I know a lot of people didn't, there was a lot of people that watched the TGL. There was a lot of people that are traditionalists that were like, I'm not watching indoor golf. But you could see in those, like Billy Ho is one of those guys that when the stage is biggest and the lights are brightest and it's a big time, like The Rock, it's a goosebumps kind of moment. He's one of those guys that has that piss and vinegar fire, whatever you want to talk about, be perfect for these kind of setups. But yeah, I was also a little surprised to see how far down Big Tone was. And, Michael Kim's a guy I like Michael Kim. I think he's great for the game with the stories he shares on X and always giving away tickets and giving you a little inside look to what these guys deal with. I would love to see him eventually getting one. It doesn't look like it's going to be this one. But I think Captain Keegs has some interesting decisions to make. And he's got some sage advice around him in the vice captains back with Furyk, Kisner, Webb Simpson, Brant Snedeker, and Gary Woodland. I mean, he's going to get some sound advice from those guys. He's got a relationship with Tiger. I'm sure he's bending Tiger's ear a little bit. When you look over to the European side real quick, for those of you that are interested in that, no surprise here. Rory McIlroy automatically is qualified. Robert McIntyre, Bobby Mack is the number 2 spot. Tommy Fleetwood, again, talk about a guy who hasn't won, but has played great golf all year. Tyrrell Hatton, one of your favorites, Shane Lowry, my guy, Sepp Straka, my other guy. Those are your automatics right there. Those 6 guys. I mean, that is a tough group, and that is a group in those 6 that will have zero problem playing in the environment that we're expecting to see there. I think the international team's got some interesting stuff. You've got Rasmus Højgaard, Justin Rose, Ludwig Oberg, Victor Hovland, Thomas Dietrich are like your next 5 guys under the list. So, we talk about this every year. And I think, and we talked about this on the show on Tuesday, Mac, is, who is the guy? Who are the guys that are going to compete with Scotty Scheffler and step up to Scotty Scheffler? And I think that's what we're seeing in the formation of how the Ryder Cup rankings are going in the U.S. You're starting to see the guys that are going to be able to play consistently enough and maybe jump up and get them in a big event. But, when you look at the European team, it's very well defined as these are going to be our for sure guys. And with the American team, you've got Henley and English. You don't have a Lowry and Hatton in there when you're getting to those 4 or 5 spots. So I think a lot of people, at least initially early, I don't know about you, are probably thinking that the European squad has a little bit of an edge in the talent pool here.
I do. I think it weighs heavily. I mean, I'm just looking. There's one guy, and we didn't mention him because he doesn't compete weekly with Scotty, but the one guy I thought that could kind of push Scotty is Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm is 21st in the Ryder Cup standings right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine them not taking Jon Rahm on that team. I mean, good golly. I mean, he's made for the Ryder Cup. I mean, he's in that Spanish heritage, of Seve and that other guy who works at McDonald's. But I mean, he's got to be on the team, right? I mean, even though he's 21st, you can't have a Ryder Cup without Jon Rahm. But I thought Rahm would be a good. He's that fiery guy. I'm like, that's the guy I think could really, I think, have pushed Scotty if he would have stayed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I don't think there's any way in hell that Jon Rahm is not a part of this Ryder Cup team. Going forward in the Ryder Cup, we've got some interesting ones. The next one after this year will be in County Limerick, Ireland, the golf course at Adair Manor. 2029, it'll return to the U.S. at Hazeltine in Minnesota. Yesterday, it was announced, actually, when you guys see this, it'll be Sunday, but on Tuesday, it was announced the 21-31 Ryder Cup going to Costa Brava and Barcelona in Spain at Camarero. And then 2033, this is one that I would probably saw off my left arm to go see. The 2033 Ryder Cup at the Olympic Club in San Francisco. One of the most amazing golf courses I've ever gotten a chance to play. It's probably either 1 or 2 for me, but interesting stuff. I love the placement of the Ryder Cup. We'll talk more about this. So don't forget, as you guys well know at this point, our football schedule coming up. Divisional previews start here in just about a week as we get into the month of August, and plenty of golf stuff to come. We'll obviously have the Ryder Cup for you, but enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For Vegas Mac, for the rest of our crew, I'm Mike. We're out.